This webinar is entitled Acting Together, Prioritizing Community Goals. The purpose of the webinar is to help you review the goals identified during your community assessment phase and prioritize those high priority goals and responsive actions you might undertake together as a community to foster dementia friendliness. My name is Olivia Mastry and I'm Executive Lead for ACT on Alzheimer's. Phase 4, Act Together, is the phase in the Action Toolkit where communities come together to pursue priority goals that will foster community readiness to support people with dementia and their family caregivers. During this phase, the community prioritizes shared goals and decides what they will do to act together. A community-wide meeting can be held to share priority goal areas and to narrow what a community can really undertake together. You won't be able to do everything, so having a good, effective prioritization process to filter those goals that are really the best investment and highest priority for community is an important part of this process. Before the community meeting, make a list of the high priority, low activity areas that were generated from your community assessment. These will show up on your key element question matrix, and they reflect the overall responses of the community. So it's important to know that you're bringing those high priority, low activity areas across the full community input process and not just from one or two respondents. Once you make a list of those high priority, low activity goal areas, then you can list out beside that set of goals possible responses or actions or programs that the community might consider to take action regarding that priority goal area. ACT can provide you with a list or an example grid that would help you align those priority areas with possible responsive actions. We've developed those actions and programs using state, national, and international resources in each priority goal area. You can also go to the ACT website to build your own menu of responses and align that with your priority goals. Here's one example grid where on the left side you can see a priority area that's come forward as a result of the community assessment process, and on the right side are actions that a community might undertake to pursue that goal area. So on this grid, for example, the priority area is to increase dementia awareness and knowledge in the community. It can be knowledge and awareness about the signs of dementia. It can be knowledge and awareness about locating long-term support services for people with dementia, or it might be knowledge and awareness regarding skills for interacting with people with dementia and making referrals for support services. If those are the priority goal areas, what could a community do to help foster those goals? Some of the things on this list that might be an option for a community is to designate dementia-capable businesses. So help businesses know what dementia-friendly is, train them, provide them with information so that they know how best to put signage up and wayfinding supports, and have their staff be able to effectively interact with people with cognitive impairment. And then once they do that training, put a sticker outside that business so people who either have impairment or they're working with a loved one who might have cognitive impairment know that this is an organization or a business that can support them in their day-to-day activities. Other examples that a community might do under this particular goal is to offer special trainings to faith communities and education and support, to organize a program for cab drivers or other transportation providers to learn about dementia so when they're serving people with cognitive impairment, they can effectively interact and support them. These are just a few examples of the responsive actions. Other responsive actions can be found on the ACT website under the Communities tab. The visual on that website of the dementia-friendly community provides different clouds representing different sectors of community. When working on the website, you can click on each cloud and that would take you to a checklist and guide of responsive actions and programs that would raise the level of dementia friendliness in that particular sector of community. Let's look at an example around government planning and what would be checklists and guides and responsive programs you could offer up to your community in that area. Under the website, if you clicked on the Government Planning Cloud, you would be taken to programs that have been gathered around how governments have worked to improve the dementia friendliness of the community. There's a guide to elder-friendly community buildings. There's also a guide to livability policies and practice that allow people to age in place and also support cognitive impairment. There are also guides or different resources that could help around community engagement opportunities so that those living in community with dementia have meaningful opportunities to continue to engage in society. There are also guides from a governmental standpoint to help governments with disaster planning, first responder approaches and support of people with dementia, and chiefs of police as they identify people in driving situations where they may have impairment and need special support and follow-up services. This is just one area of responsive activities that you would list besides a priority goal area that might be to enhance government planning for dementia friendliness. To help your community at the community meeting identify among a list of high priority goals which ones will they really pursue together, have them come together in the community meeting and self-select into one of the priority goal areas that showed up on the community assessment. Have them review the possible responsive actions with respect to their particular goal area that they've self-selected into, and ask them to choose one or two responsive actions on the menu list using specific prioritization criteria that might allow one responsive action to rise to the surface over another. Prioritization criteria that's been helpful to our action communities to date include this list. Which ideas seem doable? Do you have the right people and the right resources to make it work in a year or less? Is it a good fit for the specific community? Some ideas are doable and you might have the right people, but it just doesn't resonate with your community's culture or attributes. Would it make a meaningful difference for the community? And that's really up to that small group to decide what would make more of a difference for someone with dementia and their family carers than another idea. And lastly, is it affordable? If you're preparing to apply for seed funding from Act on Alzheimer's, would this particular activity you might be prioritizing fit within the budget offered through Act? Or if you're leveraging additional dollars, would it fit in that broader budget? Use these criteria in a combined way to ask people to look across a list of possible responsive activities and vote for those that you think best meet this prioritization criteria. This will help you filter one idea out over other ideas. So, if you're at the community meeting and you ask people to go self-identify into one priority goal group and look at a menu of actions they might take in community underneath that priority goal, this is what the assignment sheet for that small group would look like so they can get that work done. You'd first ask them to review the priority goal area so they understand what it is they're looking at. Then you would ask them to look at what are all the possible actions and resources that you might pursue in the community under this priority area. And hopefully you've provided that for them on a grid or given them some kind of list that will help them know what that menu is. However, make sure there's room that if they want to ask or add additional actions and resources that they could do in community to respond to this need, they have the opportunity to do that and add that to a flip chart. And then ask that small group to look at the whole menu of possible responsive actions and using the prioritization criteria, identify their one or two or possibly at most 3 priority actions that rise to the top of the list when they apply that criteria. It's often very helpful to make a list of all the possible actions and ask everyone to go make a mark by their very topmost priority action and see which actions get the most mark. Have the group step back, look at the ones that get the most votes, and see if they're all right identifying the 1 or 2 top vote getters as what they would recommend to the larger group as priority actions to pursue under this specific goal area. Once each small group has completed their work assignment, bring the full group together. When you bring the full group together, each small group would be reporting out, here are the 1 or 2 activities we think would be most important to undertake in our particular goal area. This should give you a list of about 5 or 10 total priority actions that we might undertake across all the priority goal areas. Take that list of 10 priority issues and ask the full group to do the same thing they did in the small group. Apply prioritization criteria, pick their number one choice, and go make a mark by it on the list. And then step back as a full group, see which ideas got the most votes, the second most votes, and probably at most the third most votes, and ask yourselves, would these be the 3 things we would want to pursue together as a community? The highest priority actions selected by the group will be the foundation of a work plan and a budget that the group would submit to Act on Alzheimer's for seed funding. Now, your group might only be able to take on one thing based on the budget, depending on size and scope, or it might be able to take on 2 or 3. Or you might find you have a list that you could leverage additional funds with now that you can see what it is you'd be working on. But be cognizant of budget limitations. This process identifies a lot of great actions that a community can undertake, and you won't be able to choose them all. But save the list of the leftover items that weren't selected as the highest priority, and in case you can get extra funding down the road. Celebrate together that you did pick 1, 2, or 3, and that you've come together around real action that you're going to take as a community. And then plan next steps on how you will organize to submit an application for seed funding and to work together on those goals. Who will do what, by when. And don't leave the meeting until that's clear so that you can make sure those next steps are pursued. We wish you the best as you identify the priority goals you'll pursue as a community and the specific actions you'll undertake. Good luck.